Michael. How are you today?
I am awesome. How are you doing this morning, Martin?
Doing great. Thank you very much. Doing really good.
I love the handheld microphone look. It looks great on
It's
you.
nice. It's nice. I really like this mic. I think it sounds great as well. Please let us know in the audience what you think about the sound of my voice with this mic compared to the regular one. But I was listening to it today and I was like, this actually may sound better. Maybe I keep doing handheld, every day from
You
now
keep
on.
doing handheld for the lifetime of this podcast. Go for it. Okay,
Yeah.
everybody. Hello and welcome to AGTP Daily. We go live every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss the most important tech. As you know, the tech stories in the U.S. today is Wednesday, the 27th of May, 2026. Martin and I were just commenting. It's hard to believe it's almost the end of May.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. There's a lot to discuss today, Martin, as usual. Let's get right to it. Look, CEO of Google and Alphabet, Sundar Pichai, did a Q&A with somebody, and he just let go a lot of really interesting stuff. So I want to go through that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Colin Fleming, who's a guy I feel like I've heard of, was hired as the new OpenAI CMO. And while that may not sound that interesting in the context of everything that you and I have been saying about OpenAI for the past 2 or 3 months, this is actually super interesting. And then later in the show, we will also be joined by Paul Veradittakit, managing partner at Pantera Capital, to explore how institutional digital asset investing will help blockchain companies move from speculative markets to durable financial infrastructure. And for me, I would say, yeah, it couldn't come fast enough. Okay, let's talk about, you were concerned about what I was going to say, weren't you? You're just like, what's he going to do?
Absolutely not.
Can't be 100%
Absolutely
sure.
not.
Cannot be 100% sure. So again, details and context. So Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Alphabet and Google, did a Q&A about Google's artificial intelligence strategy. It was kind of interesting, right?
Mhm.
This whole conversation was because of AI came out, it led to a company-wide, I would say, restructuring or rethinking around search, YouTube, Google Cloud, all the stuff that you know that they do. And here's what's super interesting, Martin. Pichai said that Google reorganized after ChatGPT came out.
Yes.
And they did some combination between their brain and their DeepMind business. They centralized all their AI infrastructure, creating more direct AI product reviews and pushing their search business team to move faster. And he says that Google is now operating from a shared Gemini infrastructure layer across all the products rather than treating AI as a separate product experiment. And that's interesting to me. But here's the other thing that's really interesting as well. Google did not, and tell me what you think here, but Google did not release Gemini that far after ChatGPT
No.
came out. It wasn't like they started developing it. They saw ChatGPT and said, we have to be in the artificial intelligence business.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like the founders of Google and now Alphabet have been talking about artificial intelligence at some level for a decade.
Yeah.
It's just my feeling on this. I didn't go back and check the first reference point that they had for some public comment that they made. But it's weird to me that they didn't understand the significance of it so much that they had to wait until ChatGPT got released to say, oh, all this Gemini stuff we have, now we have to make it, we have to weave it into the rest of to all of our product line, not the rest of our product line, and not treat it as a standalone product, but treat it as something that's part of every product that we have has to be AI enabled or AI enhanced. So does that not seem weird to you? I mean, there's more stuff here. But just at the beginning.
Yeah, my feeling is different. If we talk about the beginning of how they released Gemini, I think what happened was Google was working on it for a while. They knew it was not good. Okay, they knew it was not good enough. But OpenAI released ChatGPT, which forced them to come on the market as well. That was not their plan. That was not what they wanted to do. They could have moved first, but they did not, and they were waiting. I think that the product becomes much better, but because OpenAI undercut them and launched first, then they had to respond, and that's why they launched Gemini in a hurry. And if you remember, it was really bad. Back in 2023, because ChatGPT launched in November 2022, so at the end of November, of 2022, and then early 2023, Gemini launched, and at that time, Gemini was really bad. Everybody was kind of laughing at them, how come such a good company like Google, who've been working on this thing for so long, can have a product that's so bad, basically. And so I think it's because they rushed the launch just to not be left behind too much because OpenAI had already launched and had already gained so much market share. I think that's what happened with the launch of Gemini.
Right. So let's just say that that is the case.
Mhm.
How good is Google at AI then anyway? If they'd been working on it for like long, because think about it, OpenAI was founded in 2015, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah. Yes.
That's also about 10 years ago,
Yeah.
approximately, right? And definitely not 10 years before Gemini launched.
Yes.
So, like, how good are they actually at this? In other words, they definitely started working on it. They knew it was important. But I think this is part of the problem with Google is that they make so much of their money or almost all of their money from ads, right? And this, so that every time they do something, even if it's important, even if it's going to be significant, it always feels like some kind of side project. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
otherwise, Gemini would have been better.
Yeah.
We can talk about the internal stuff that they've come up with now, because I do think that there's some interesting things here that he answered, but I'm just curious about this, like, strategically. In other words, they should have been way better at release time at this, don't you think?
For sure, for sure. But I think they didn't have a choice. I think OpenAI forced everybody to release their cards, basically, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that was the only chance of OpenAI to exist in this market. So that's why they did that, because they didn't have the name, they didn't have the recognition, they didn't have the distribution. They were well funded, but not at the level of Google and Microsoft and the other guys at this point back in 2022. So I think they had to release first OpenAI to get the first mover advantage, and then it forced everybody, Google to launch Gemini, Microsoft to release Copilot, even though it was really bad product and not ready for launch. And that's why Microsoft and Google did not launch before. But once again, OpenAI forced them, and then it was bad. And then they really had to catch up fast. They really had to catch up fast. So I think the people in the Gemini model team, when OpenAI released the model, I think those guys, they started to work like 30 hours a day, 8 days
I
a
was
week,
going to say,
because they
I was
had
going
to
to say to catch up, right? Because
Exactly, they had to
yeah,
catch up. Yeah, they had to, and frankly, they did a pretty good job right now. 3 years after, Gemini is not that much behind, right? And then they integrated that into Google search. I think that's the biggest use case that everybody's using right now, right? Like the summary that we have directly from the AI.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, then I think they still have a long way to go, but they have a lot of potential, right? Like to me, I think that the biggest potential use case that we should do first is to copy Slackbot from Salesforce directly into Gmail, because once your AI has access to all the data that lives into your Gmail and can process that and can help you do stuff based on this knowledge that he is getting from there, that can be really, really powerful. So that would be the first thing I would do if I was Google. I would build Gmail bot on the same idea of what Salesforce has done. This is just so good, so smart.
but so here's the interesting thing: is that Slackbot actually already works with Gmail.
So Slackbot works with Gmail, but you need an integration. It's not native, right? So yeah, it does work.
No.
But the best thing that Slackbot is doing is that you have all of this chat with all of your colleagues, and it can just like use all of this data that is living inside of Slack, right? And so then you can organize the data the way you want. You can do whatever you want because they own Slack, and so they can just modify the code, adapt that, do some updates, and optimize really well for the AI itself, which Google can do the exact same thing directly inside Gmail or Gmail Workspace if they just want to give that to the enterprises. I think this is
Right.
the first thing that they should do right now, because we see already that Slackbot is such a huge success, right? And yeah, I don't know, like if they don't release it in the next coming months, I have no idea what they are doing.
So this is the other really weird is probably the wrong word, but kind of interesting thing about Google, in the sense that I think everybody still uses it.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you know what I mean? It's not one of these things where like I have to go test it. I'm probably in Google every day for a bunch of time,
Yeah.
still just like searching for things. And the reason why is because, well, first of all, I'm used to it, but second of all, literally like the URL bar is just a search engine, right? Itself.
Exactly.
So you just get used to typing in there. You don't have to go anywhere and do anything. You just type in there and you can end up searching for stuff. So if I have an idea or a thought and I'm not actually already in ChatGPT or for you in Anthropic,
Mm.
I can literally just type into the URL space and just go like, what is this? Who is this? What's, show me the Wikipedia on this thing or whatever I want to know. And it's really straightforward to use. But here's the other thing. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I don't need to go test stuff. But one of the things that I've seen pop up, and I think if you just go to and it was weird, Martin, like a couple of days ago, I just went to google.com for the first time in forever.
Okay.
And I was like, but the reason why I did it was because I wanted to see what search at its core was. And because they talked about this thing called AI mode.
Yeah.
Right. And again, if you just type into the URL space, you can use AI mode as well. But I kind of like the stark view of the Google search page, just google.com. And I hadn't actually been here in a while. And one of the reasons why I did this actually was because I was going through this stuff from this Q&A that this guy like Nilay Patel, who works for The Verge, did.
Yes.
And this idea is that because they're trying to put AI inside of every product that they use, they are telling you, right, that there's an AI mode in search. And they've also said, he also said during this Q&A that AI mode has surpassed 1 billion monthly users.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's more. So AI overviews, that thing you see at the top, right, when you do any kind of search, again, according to Sundar Pichai, has 2.5 billion monthly active users. And the AI-powered search usage is just increasing overall. Because there was some kind of question around, and we'll talk about this a little later, how is that going to affect their advertising business? And yet their ad revenue, I think, was up 18 or 19%.
Oh, wow.
Because if everything is sort of AI search related, how do they fit the ads into? Because again, people are using people are using Gemini in the same way that they're using ChatGPT. And one of the things that Google was testing, is can you do these contextual ads that OpenAI wants to do? And it feels like the answer is yes. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's actually really interesting, but by summarizing basically the result from the pages, right? Because that's what Gemini is doing. When you do Google and you search for something, you have the top 5 links, and then you have 3 sponsored on top of that. And a few years ago, you would need to go on the pages and then read through that to find the information that you want. But as of today, that's what Gemini does. Gemini just goes on the pages, get the information, and then answer your question directly, so you don't need to go to the website. So the direct people who lose are the websites, because now they have
I was gonna say
traffic, right? But it's a really interesting thing that they have so much traffic already, which by the way makes Gemini the first AI used in the world by far, because OpenAI did around 1 billion, little bit less, 900 million monthly active users. So if Gemini is at 2.5, it means that they are the largest by far in terms of usage. But also it's very interesting because none of these contextual answer actually sell you something. There is no ads into it at all. So if their revenue increased 18%, it means that there must be some different type of queries where the AI is actually supporting some sort of queries, for example, the e-commerce, I want to buy the latest 90 red shoes, and then somehow the ads have more value, what is better, and so that's what they are doing. But I've never seen any contextual answer from Gemini that redirects to a website or to a transactional thing.
They don't. This is what makes it so interesting. So the monetization model, this was one of the things that Sundar Pichai also said, that the monetization model is also changing. And in that sense, Google is testing Gemini powered ads inside of AI mode, the mode that I was just talking about before, right?
Okay.
And search, including conversational discovery ads, highlighted answers, shopping ads, and even business agent for leads ads. It's so interesting. And you're right. Ads are not just going to sit next to search results themselves, but they'll be embedded inside of these conversations, recommendations, and all this other stuff. And like I said, the financials are kind of supporting this. I want to make sure that I have these numbers right. Yeah, Google search and other advertising revenue grew 19% to $60.4 billion. YouTube ads also grew 11% to 9.9 billion. I'm surprised that number is not higher.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh my
Nine.
God, if I could buy calls on Google ad revenue, because think about
Okay.
it, search revenue is 60 billion, YouTube revenue is let's just call it $10 billion. It could go up 6 times because I think more people are going to be using YouTube than they are going to be using search, but that's just me.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. But
Um,
actually, I actually like in terms of user, how often now do you use the browser just to type a query to expect an answer from Gemini? So you don't expect to find a website, you don't look for a website, you just want an answer from Gemini. I think this is my first use case of Google right now. Like
it's my
if
only
I
use case of Google right now
that's your
because Martin,
okay,
and
that's
this is the
so
big
that's
problem. This is the
so
big
that's
problem for the
crazy.
web.
Yeah. So that's
And
crazy.
I this is the thing that Sundar Pichai was saying. They have this thing
Yeah.
that's called Google Zero.
Okay.
Okay, so and this is one of the things that that Nilay Patel was pushing him on, right? Because this idea, Google's whole idea originally was like to organize the entire web,
Yeah.
right? But now the contention that people are having is you're not connecting people to the web
Mhm.
because it's now filtering out all these other
Exactly.
websites where if you can give the answers to these queries yourselves and you're not sending people to other websites as you were suggesting earlier, Martin,
Yes.
it means that like you're changing like people are still building these websites that have all this information on it. You're just going out grabbing that information and then putting it um into
Yeah.
your search result.
Yeah.
That's weird and it's terrible
For the website themselves.
for the websites themselves because it was
Yeah.
bad enough before when they changed the algorithm. But now
But
they're
for
not even changing the algo per se. They're just going, yeah, you just give us the data. We're going to print it out
exactly.
like it's just an answer to a question.
But for the users, it's great. I think this is working really really well for the user, right? And so that's why today, as a user of Google, like I just go to the search bar and I just type my question directly, right? Like we were discussing something just
Yep.
before starting the live. We had a question. I didn't go to ChatGPT. I didn't go to
No,
Claude. I
no.
went to Google, right? Because I think I'm getting a lot of great answer when I'm doing that. I don't have any hallucination. When it doesn't know, it does nothing. It just show the web results. And actually, I've seen myself expecting an answer from Gemini, not getting one. So I assume that's because there is no clear answer, and that's good. That he never replies something that's wrong, and then just quit the search, not even go to the website trying to find the answers by myself. I was really expecting something from Gemini, and I've seen myself doing that. Like, okay, Gemini can't figure this out. It means it's complicated. I don't want to. I don't want to do it myself. And I think if we look at our own change of behavior, right,
Mhm.
at how we use Google as of today, yeah, I mean, I think they did an amazing job at integrating Gemini directly into search. It's a really good product that works really, really, really well. And it's probably the best use case, like much better than ChatGPT or Claude at doing this type of queries. And if you have 2.5 billion monthly users on that, it's just absolutely insane, right? And so it shows that a lot of people are actually believing the same thing, that it's a good product, that they use it a lot, and that it's really really helpful for them, right? And so it means it's not going to go in the other direction. And if you have a website
Right.
that does SEO, for example, or just content, I would
Yep.
be scared. I would really really be scared because what's going to be the future, right? Like of traffic to your website. Mm-hmm.
Well, so this is actually interesting because there's actually some data on this.
Okay.
So Google claims that AI search increases usage, but independent research also shows that lower click-through rates, excuse me, when AI summaries appear. In other words, no,
Mm-hmm.
just like you said, Martin, people are just like looking at that AI summary and going, that's good enough for me,
Oh, for sure. Very often.
right?
Yeah.
And it says that Pew, which is a research company, found that users click traditional search links in 8% of visits with an AI summary versus 15% without one. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
almost double. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
half the click through rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm
that's
not
super,
surprised.
but
Yeah.
and there's more. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm absolutely not surprised at all. Yeah. Yeah.
So also just a little bit more data here,
Hmm.
because I think this is interesting, and some of this comes from, I want to get this right, Cloudflare.
Okay.
So Cloudflare is reporting that training related crawling, right, just
Okay.
like going around the net and trying to get information, made up nearly 80% of AI bot activity by the middle of 2025.
Oh,
While Google referrals to news sites and other websites declined in its data set. So Cloudflare knows what's going on. I mean, this is
yes.
why,
Yes.
these companies are so amazing. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's super interesting. And here's the other thing, Martin, that I thought was interesting about this too, that came out in this conversation or in this Q&A. Google says, right, that its AI economics depend heavily on its infrastructure. We know this is true, right? Because we can see what other companies are spending on infrastructure, what they've committed, whether it's Facebook, sorry, Meta, or OpenAI or Anthropic.
Hmm.
They've just committed to spending a ton of money.
Yeah.
So Google says that it spent $35.7 billion in CapEx in Q1 alone, mostly for technical infrastructure, and expects 2027 CapEx to rise significantly versus 2026. So why do I point this out? That's 140, right? 142 billion dollars they're saying they're going to spend this year. That is OpenAI size money.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I mean,
But
that's
also, like,
insane, right?
if you
Go
have
ahead.
2.5 billion users who get answers from Gemini for free on Google, it's like you have 2.5 billion free users on ChatGPT, right? It's
Mhm.
just massive. Like the cost to actually do all the inference, all the search, and all the results, like for free, because you don't have like a Google Pro, right? So so all of this is just free, and so yeah, I mean they need to bear the cost for sure. So if OpenAI lose money with only 1 billion monthly user, Google has 2.5 times more, Michael. And it's huge, it's massive. So if that's really the case, like maybe Google, they are more optimized, maybe there is more caching and stuff. They already have their own data centers, and they know really well how to optimize all of this thing. Sure, but the usage could be massive of Gemini compared to Claude or to Chat GPT.
Right. And this gets back to a problem. So one of the other stories we were going to do tonight was going to be titled, "Is the artificial intelligence free ride over?"
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. Because of the change in pricing. And you and I
Yeah,
spent a lot of time talking about this on the show and off the show, right? But the
yeah,
change in pricing from sort of fixed monthly subscriptions to this, what they're calling the metered way to do it. Every time you use it, every time you touch a token, you have to pay for it.
mm-hmm.
But it feels to me like Google is suggesting, like, we don't care.
So maybe that's a really aggressive strategy, right? Like, because once again they didn't launch first, so I mean, I think if OpenAI or Microsoft had launched their AI 3 months before OpenAI wouldn't be here at all. They would be way too late, or they would need something so good, like Anthropic. They kinda started to take off like a year or two after OpenAI, right? It took them a
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
time before they were at the table, because they had a great model and also really great distribution to the enterprise. So OpenAI would have had to do something similar. It would have been way harder for them if they hadn't launched first. And so I think Google and Microsoft, they kinda lost the opportunity to kinda kill OpenAI from the get go. And so then now I think they are just like full marketing mode, full acquisition mode. They are just giving their product for free to everybody. And they are just like, not really caring about the cost, because they are into a very aggressive growth phase. And this is really aggressive to put Gemini for free directly into Google for 2.5 billion people. That's aggressive. And what it's actually like, what the result of that is, that we don't go to ChatGPT anymore to ask a simple question that Gemini can answer, just because it's so
So,
much easier.
right, but this is very problematic, right? So the implications to me, for ChatGPT and for Anthropic,
Yeah.
right, are, and we talk about this all the time. Google did this for basically every single other product that it released. It was just like, we're making basically $70 billion from our ad business. It seems to be because that's 60 plus the 10, right?
Yeah.
From their
ChatGPT.
AI mode ad business. And they're just like, we'll give away this thing for free, particularly if it increases our ad business.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the big problem, right? So Google now has three because here's the thing. Like Anthropic has a coding tool. OpenAI has Codex, right? So you have
Yeah.
Claude Code and you have Codex. But Google also, and none of them have any revenue from anything else. Sure, OpenAI's testing. Remember, they said they did $100 million in 6 weeks of potential revenue from their ad business. That's what they were
Yes.
testing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you have to make a choice between should you place your ad revenue for someone that's always done advertisements for you, like Google, or would you put them on an untested ad network like OpenAI? I feel like, and I don't know this for sure, but I feel like on the margin, you're just going to default back to Google because it's always kind of worked for you. And here's the other really interesting thing too. Like Google already has a bunch of products. Anti-gravity, right? That's their coding agent as well. So they have something that competes with Claude
Codex
Code and with
Claude.
Codex.
Yep.
Is it great? I don't know. Right? They have Spark, which is their consumer task agent, and Canvas, which like builds custom apps on the fly.
Yeah.
So like they do have a full suite of products, plus they have a really robust ad business. And here's the other thing, Martin. While OpenAI did say that they were going to start competing in the advertising business, Anthropic said no, at least for now, right?
Yes.
But from a revenue breakdown standpoint, where is there more money in the economy in general? Is it in the advertising business or is it in the agentic coding business?
Yeah. No, I think this is actually like that's the big question that we keep that keeps surfacing. I feel as of today, right? Like for almost every news that we cover nowadays, at the end of the day, that's pretty much the biggest question. Like, who is going to make the most money in 5 years? And that's
Right.
absolutely unclear, right? So, of course, there is like this massive ad business that are so big. They have so much users. They have so much data. They have so much client as well, right? Because like when you spend that 60 billion in total on the Google Ads platform, it means that there's tons of people who are actually spending a lot of money as well, right? So they know the system, they know the treat, they know the platform, they know the spend. Like all of that has already been approved, so it's so much easier to stay there rather than going to a new platform. And they have like all the skills and internally to actually create a really good ad that at the end of the day makes you money, right? Because that's really
Yep.
why as a company you buy the ad is if the ad is making money for you, or otherwise you just stop. So for OpenAI to compete into that business, it's bold. It's really really bold, right? Especially now that Gemini actually does research for you, right? Does research for you, answer your question directly, which is really close to the use case of ChatGPT. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, Michael, but that back in November 2022, so many people were talking about ChatGPT is going to kill Google because I can do all of my search inside ChatGPT, and that's so much
Yep.
better. I think as of today, all the people who were saying that absolutely stopped because ChatGPT.
Because
Yeah,
here's
go
why
ahead.
though. Here's
Yeah,
why. You even said earlier, and I was going to ask you about this. You said I went to Google
yeah,
to do a search, but what
yes.
did you really do?
I asked the
You just typed,
AI to
no,
summarize
no,
for
but you
me.
just typed into the URL space. No, you didn't go to Google.
Yeah. I typed into the URL space and I typed my question directly. So that's also
That's my point, though.
something
You
very
didn't go.
different.
That's the point. Is you didn't go to Google, but until ChatGPT becomes the default search engine, right, for
There's no way.
Chrome,
Yeah,
Firefox, or for
yeah,
Safari,
yeah,
it's never going to win in this in the ad business because I
yeah,
wanted to be clear about this, right? So I said to you, like, I went to Google as well, but then I corrected myself and I'm like, I went there just on purpose just to see what it looked like. But normally when I do it, I literally just like go to the search
yeah,
bar and I'm like, what is the answer to this question?
yeah. The
And that's
distribution
because
that Google.
Google's the default, and inside of their search engine lives Gemini. And because of that, like
Yeah,
this could be really fatal for some of these big
I agree.
model companies. No,
I totally agree. But plus also something that is really really bad for ChatGPT and the others is that the search product is actually really bad, right? Like how many times you ask ChatGPT, what are the top restaurants in Bangkok, for example, and then either he say to you something completely wrong, right, or he
Yeah.
hallucinates, or he just doesn't give you the right answer, which is the type of stuff that never happens with Gemini. Like in my experience, when you ask Gemini a question, he either does nothing or he gives you a good answer that you can actually trust. Which the trust factor is something we have completely lost with Chat GPT, because he just want to be too helpful. He just want to answer you, and regardless if it's correct or not, basically. So I think this just a little tweak that Google has done. We are just going to give the right answer. That's it. And if we don't know, I think we do nothing. That's why we don't always have an answer from Gemini into Google. That has
Right.
been the one little trick that is actually making the product really useful. And I think we went from ChatGPT is doing to kill Google to actually Google is doing to kill search inside of ChatGPT, because it's just way better.
It is way better. And here's another really important point to make, and that is we talk about this all the time, but the LLMs were not built for any specific purpose. They were built to
Yes.
prove a point.
Yeah.
And then people started going, hey, I'm here already. Let me ask it a question about this thing. And it gave it a decent answer, or it gave it another decent answer. But Google search has been refined
Yeah.
and perfected over 2 decades or more to be really good at finding the thing that it thinks you want to find.
Exactly.
And then either
this
A,
is hard.
sending you there, or either now giving you an AI summary. Sorry,
And this is
go ahead.
really, really, really hard. Like for anybody who has run just a little bit of Google Ads, when you do the keyword search, like okay, what are the keywords that
yeah,
my
yeah.
clients may
Yeah,
be
yeah.
able to search for my product, it sounds
Right.
such a stupid question. Of course, like my clients are going to search that and that and that. Right? It sounds so
Right.
simple, but as soon as you start doing Google Ads, which means as soon as you start actually testing those keywords and see if people who search them have the right intent behind them, so are they actually searching for what I think they search, you start to realize a whole new world of what's called the intent, which is sometimes people search something and they mean something completely different, right? And Google, as you just mentioned, like very rightly, has been amazing at that, at figuring out what is actually the real intent that you mean behind your query, right? And even if
Yeah,
you use
yeah.
the same words, like even if you use different words with, I don't know how they do that, but it's really complex to actually know what do you actually mean behind your question. And once again, if you want to learn more about that for the audience, try to do some Google Ads, and you will really quickly see that you're very often wrong. Like when you think people are searching these keywords to find something, very often your assumptions are wrong, because the intent is actually something else for the audience. And yeah, Google is really good at that, and they can build upon that, according to me, right? Because now that Gemini has the intent and they have the data as well, that's maybe why it can be so much more helpful.
Right. And this is the thing, is that the other point that I was trying to make at scale is that Google was purpose built for search and for search results that are accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they layer on their artificial intelligence on top of it to make it not just more accurate, but more relevant and more, as you said, more intentional. And then they give you those summaries.
Yeah.
But what happened with, I think, with ChatGPT was people started using it for search because they were just there, but it wasn't optimized over 2.5 decades. And we've spent time talking about this before. Google has, again, I'm making up a number, but like 2.5 decades of search result information, which means they have all this data around what people are actually trying to find when they type a thing that may not be so clear. Whereas ChatGPT doesn't have that. Neither does Anthropic. They don't have all of this historical data around what do people really mean when they say
Exactly.
best pizza Bangkok. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And because it wasn't purpose built for that, it's not optimized for that. The results you're going to get in Google are almost by definition going to be more comfortable and more relatable, because that's where you've always gone to get those results, if that makes sense. You're just more used to it. So you go back to it and you're like, huh, for search, actually, Google's way better, kind of thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think this is the use case that we have experienced ourselves as a user in the last 12 months, I would say, right?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
That's why like all of this discussion 4 years ago around ChatGPT is going to kill Google as of today feels really like I don't want to say the word, but it feels like completely outdated. Let's say to be nice, but yeah, because as of today, when you want a result from search, Google is doing a much better job. So it definitely took some market share, let's say, from
Yep.
ChatGPT on the search side, right? Like people who search something, I believe now they use Google Gemini or they should use Google Gemini just because that's a much better experience, much better product, and you get a much better answer. So now ChatGPT does this thing less, basically, right? There's one less use case for ChatGPT.
Has anybody that we know tested anti-gravity?
I did. I did.
And what's your opinion?
It's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not bad. It's not bad, but for the same price, you have access to Cloud Code and to GPT 5.5. It's just way better.
Way better.
So
Even from a coding perspective,
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
way
yeah.
better.
Actually, mainly, yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, let's just contextualize things properly. I
That's okay.
mainly tried it for coding and building stuff. Okay, so like if I
Right.
want to build something, if I want to develop a new feature, if I want to build a new software, Google Pro, Gemini Pro, I think was the name of the model, was not as good as Cloud Opus or GPT 5.5,
Right.
but it was not too far behind, to be honest. It was not too bad. It was not like impossible to use. Okay, it was like okay,
Mhm.
they need to catch up. Maybe Gemini actually Flash, I think that's the name of the model, would be great for search, and maybe I to try to replace like Claude IQ by Gemini's Flash. But
Mhm.
now we are talking about like multi-model in infrastructure, and this is like not the simplest thing to do, right? So so that's why I kind of gave up on Gemini and I kept Cloud Code, but just because it couldn't do coding for me. But yeah, there's maybe some good use cases because I remember like Gemini Flash was really quick and really cheap. So if you can find maybe like some writing or some search, maybe it's great, and then it could be a great product for some specific use case. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to test it out now that we've had this conversation. I'm going to test it out for some of the stuff that I do because
Yeah.
it's less sort of coding oriented and
Yep.
more sort of writing oriented, right?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Or research
Maybe you
oriented.
should.
So
Yeah.
it's yeah. So I'm happy to test that. I want to run through something really quickly with you on the coding side, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
this guy named Florian Roth
Tell me.
published something today on X that I thought was really interesting. Can you just humor me for a moment and let me run
Sure.
through this really quickly?
Sure.
So he said, I think AI coding hype follows roughly four stages. The experience of understanding like what AI coding does and does not do or can and cannot do
Okay.
goes through four stages. And I think these are interesting. I'll go through them quickly, okay?
Okay.
But I'm curious what the viewers and the listeners think about this because I do think this is actually kind of interesting. Stage one is, wow, that's so amazing. You just can't believe like how much code it generates from just a few prompts.
Okay.
And I'm summarizing what he's saying, right? Two is expansion. You start more and more projects because shipping suddenly feels cheap and fast. And this is also the phase where people start convincing everyone around them. It's like, dude, you have to try this thing. You call your friends and other companies, they're doing all this stuff. They're like, this is amazing. You have to use it. The third the third phase is the grind phase, where you realize that generated code has architectural issues, sloppy mistakes, weird abstractions, duplicated logic, and you start like, maybe my prompts weren't that good. Maybe I should switch up to a different model. This is why I'm talking about it, right? Maybe I have to review all these fixes. And then suddenly you spend your days reviewing AI generated pull requests instead of building stuff. And then the final thing is the realization that you realize AI coding increases output much faster than it increases certainty. And I won't go through all the details there, but the idea is like, wow, you have to use it. Oh no, I really have to review this because this wasn't exactly what I expected. And then it's more just like, oh no, I output a lot of stuff, but maybe
So
when I wrote the code by myself, it was better. Sorry, go ahead.
so I think the world is divided into two groups of as of today. There is the guys like
Go ahead.
this who care about beautiful code and code that works all the time, and there is the one who don't. and and I think it's really hard for an experienced engineer that has been trained and that has worked for 25 years, about like writing good code, beautiful code, something that just works, something that we can explain, something that will work at scale across multiple machines and across tons of data centers, to learn to let go. I think they have to learn to let go, because you have the other side of the world right now, which is like the button works fine. I have no idea if it took like 25,000 lines too much, and
Right.
maybe there's duplicated logic, and maybe we are storing way much data into the database, maybe, but you know what, the button works, so let me build the next button. All right.
Right,
Because
right, exactly.
that's what I need. And with all of my discussion with other people building with AI, I really see the world once again being divided into these two groups. You have the guy who refuse using AI exactly for what you said, and you have the guys like me who just don't care. As the button works, I just keep going, and then we will see at some point if we have a problem or not.
Exactly. But again, this happens. So
Mhm.
oh God, I have so many thoughts on this. I wanted to point out what he was saying because it nicely
No, for sure.
synthesizes, I think what I'll call the other side thinks about the way AI coding is developing.
Oh yeah,
For me, again, I'm not doing it, but I see what the results are of you doing it.
yeah.
And again, just to go back to the examples, like it's not perfect. It's not writing perfect code,
Mhm.
but it does the stuff that I need
Exactly.
to get done. And when it doesn't, the fix is usually pretty easy. It's telling the AI to go fix it.
Exactly.
And you're right. You're right. Like no one's doing an analysis of like, is my code Shakespearean?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Is it the
Exactly.
perfect iambic pentameter, or does the button just work? Even if
Yes.
it's like 14,000 lines of code, you're right.
Exactly. Uh, maybe there is some use cases where having like all of this extra code that is absolutely useless is going to be problematic, right? But I think there is also a
Maybe.
lot of use cases where that's actually okay, right? Like we actually don't care. We can go we can go faster. We can learn to let go. But also, like I think here, like based on all the discussion that we've had like about AI, the one thing that I'm really convinced about is that AI is really changing the way we work, not just what we do, not just the processes, but just the way we work. And I think here is also like a really good example of that, because before, if you walk into a group of developers, you work into a company, you have a front end developer, you have a back end developer, you need to make your code understandable because the next person will need to go through it and understand what's going on. So then either they can build more function, they can plug into it, or they can build their part of the software. But as of now, the AI normally is able to do the entire thing. So there's no more review. There's no one that should go to the code and review it. So if it's not nice, if it's plenty of stuff that are useless, it's maybe completely fine, because if it's done properly, because the way we work is changing, right?
Right.
Like you should actually stop worrying and stop reviewing the code. You should just be like, the button works fine, now let's build the front end.
I'm,
That's the next part we need.
I want to make another point because I don't
Yeah.
disagree with you at all. When I was at
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs, right, the software engineers took pride
Mm-hmm.
in the fact that their code was like clean and
Yes.
sharp and tight,
Yeah.
and they could write great code, but their boss would always be like,
Yep.
"This is like the worst looking code I've ever seen," even if it worked.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Yeah,
still
but
this sort of code writing hierarchy of
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of centered around
And that's
like, where did you learn how to code? You learn how to code from monkeys because like
yeah,
this is
yeah, yeah,
terrible,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but this is what the code should look like. Go back and rewrite it to be like this. And the guy's like, but it works, and the desk is using it. And why am I rewriting code that's already there? And this is the point you're smiling, but this is the point you're making. It's just like the users don't care.
Yeah.
And
The
unless it's a billion lines of code instead of 2 lines of code, which means that maybe it's slightly less
mm-hmm,
efficient,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? But again, are you writing in a language that's interpreted?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not.
Yep, and plus, like before, like to your Goldman Sachs example, like you really want to write good code because at some point someone were going to read it, right? And so he was going to judge you. So you had like this social pressure of like, actually,
Yeah.
if everything I'm doing,
That's my point.
somebody
Yeah,
is
like
going to
Bob's doing
see.
it's fucking horrible, and it's like, yeah, but it works.
Exactly. So before it sucked because like you don't want your colleagues, your boss, to believe that you are not a good developer and then complain that your code is so hard to read that they really struggle to do their part of the job, right? But once again, as of now, the AI is actually able to just do everything, right? So normally we should eliminate the code review part, right? That we should not just go inside the code and just check. Like for all the software that I've built for us, Michael, I've never opened a single file myself. I have no idea what it looks like. I have never changed anything. I have never.
Don't tell anybody that.
No, that's true. That's just for the audience of tonight. You have a secret. But I have never opened a single file just because I trust the process. I'm like, the button works, great. I know them. They must be like tons of useless line of code, but that's fine. Things works, right? And so, and the time I don't spend worrying about is my code actually good or bad, because no one's going to read it, no one's going to judge me. I can use this time to actually build the next button, build the next feature, and actually absolutely explode our output, right? Like, because this is where we get the most value. So that's why I said, like, we need to rethink the way we work if we really want to use AI at the most, right? You need to remove as much as possible the human in the loop. You need to remove as much of possible the way you think about your own work in terms of what are the reviews, what are the processes. Do we really need that? What if we just trust the AI, and then this is really when you start enjoying the full value of AI, even if it's not perfect. But I think the good thing with coding compared to writing, for example, which is why the writing use cases are much harder, is because if you write an email or if you write something that is going to be seen by other people, and that's bad, that's a much larger problem. If you have some useless line of code into your code, but the button works, that's okay, and no one is going to see the mistake. So that's why coding is very easy in this sense.
Yeah, and as the biggest consumer of the code that you're writing, I will say that the buttons work.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I rarely, if ever, go to a place that I'm supposed to go do something, which makes me 1,000 times, if not more efficient, and just be like, I don't like the way that button looks. I need to have a conversation with the CTO because this code is clearly not clean enough for me to use. Like, my hands got dirty. Do you know what I mean? Like, that never happens.
And that doesn't matter, right? Like, and when we have a problem, we just ask the AI to fix it. The AI fix it, and then we go on, right? And then we just forgot that there were a problem, right? And also I think that the other part of that is that agentic AI is good only since 6 months old, right? It's been only 6 months that we can actually do something, and that's because only 6 months ago the AI were able to actually write code that was working without human intervention. Like, we don't need to fix it for it to work, and that's only the case in 6 months. So I think in terms of directionality, as of today, we are in the very early days of AI writing code, and it's already working. But in 6 months, in 2 years, in 5 years from now, it's going to make way less mistakes. It's going to be way more optimized. It's going to be able to clean the code much better. So I think the directionality of coding with AI is going to be towards trusting the process, letting the AI do everything, because the AI is going to get better, and actually much better. So I think people are going to need to evolve at some point. It's either they do it now or they do it in 3 years when it's better. But if you do it now, you can enjoy the benefit of agentic coding right now, which is actually really cool. So I would suggest you let go.
And I'm going to agree with you here, but think about the guy we met a couple of weeks ago or last week, Nick Miller, right? The guy who was the senior product guy at Cursor.
That's a great example.
He loves coding.
Yeah, he loves it.
Like, he loves it. He loves engineering code. He just loves it. And I can imagine a situation where, as the product at Cursor continues to develop, just like at Codex, just like Claude Code, that the people that are developing the product are like, you know what, this code's not clean enough.
Yeah.
And it's not efficient enough. So again, like, you know, when you hire a guy from Stanford to work at Morgan Stanley, to send him to Tokyo to then have him write the portfolio trading platforms.
Mm-hmm.
On day one, the guy's code is good because he learned computer science or code writing when he was at Stanford. But the bottom line is he's never written code for a trading desk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That needs to be like fault tolerant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can have zero mistakes. And over time, that guy learns in the same way that I think Cursor, Codex, and Claude Code are going to learn. You know what? Our code is not efficient enough. And at some point, because they can do it in a way that's automated and fast and they have access to every piece of code that's ever been written, they're going to learn. The agent's going to learn. I mean, tell me where I'm wrong.
No, exactly.
And actually write cleaner code than the cleanest code writer over time. And I think this is the thing that guys like either Florian miss or don't or aren't focused on. And that is that, again, it's early. We talked about this yesterday, right? It's like there's no ROI associated with this. And you're like, this is a brand new thing. Of course, there's no ROI associated with it. And the same thing for me is with the coding agents. It's like, yeah, they write crappy code.
Yeah, but it's just
they're junior programmers. What are we doing?
Exactly. And so that's why maybe that's an amazing time to be a guy who don't care at this moment, because we are able to enjoy like agentic AI like before everybody else, and it works, right? So it's not that it doesn't work, it's that it works, right? Maybe it's not perfect, but it works and it helps me in my job, right? So really like what's the point of creating more problems? But yeah, definitely it's going to get better and better and better and better. And so at some point it will write clean code. We just don't know when. And then the clean code guys are going to be more happy, and they will have to adopt AI because now they don't have any excuse to actually 10x their output, right? So I think it's just a matter of time. It's either you adopt it right now and you enjoy the benefit right now, and you accept that okay, you're gonna have some stuff into your code that you don't need, but that's fine because all the buttons still works. Like you just
we're using a lot of buttons over here at Undercover Media for sure.
Or you just wait and you keep being slow. Like I have spoken to a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago with a really amazing developer, and who told me he doesn't use AI at all. And I was like, how come? It's impossible. Like you should be able to do like way more stuff if you were using AI. He was like, yeah, but it doesn't write good. I want to keep writing better code. I can write better code than the AI as of today. And I didn't want to argue with him, but I was like, I don't think that's... I don't think
it can write it better, but can it write more? That's the thing, right?
Exactly.
Who was it, Martin? Because I quoted this. The guy was like, AI is not replacing coding; it's replacing typing.
Yes, that's
the agentic AI coder can type way faster than you can. Not you, but a human can.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, their output is just factors more than yours.
I mean,
and you're right. If it doesn't work, well, then you just tell the AI to figure out why it doesn't work and fix it. And if it does work, you just move on. No,
exactly. But it's factors more, Michael. I mean, it's not even twice faster or 3 times faster or 5 times faster. It's even more than that. It's 100 times faster that you can be with agentic coding compared to without agentic coding. So it makes a huge difference, right? Like it's not just I can ship twice faster. No. It's I can ship like all day, all night, non-stop. Basically,
right.
Like right now we are doing the live, and I have my agents who are building new feature for us at the same time, and I'm not even involved. And then after the live, what do? I check if it works. If it doesn't work the way I want, I provide feedback. Then I go eat, and if it works, I just forget about it. That's done. Boom, right? And I didn't even spend a single minute writing the code, reviewing the code. I just did the task, and then boom, it worked, right? So this is factors better and faster. It's not even just twice or 3 times. It's like a completely new way to approach software development, building apps, building software. It's completely different. That's why I say the biggest innovation is more in the way we work. You need to accept this new way of working, right? Rather than staying into the old model that's way slower.
Can I make another point, Martin? And again, this is just like, because I've seen so many tech cycles, I feel comfortable saying this. The guys that are sitting there saying, I'm going to keep doing it the old way because it's always worked for me, at some point it's kind of dinosaur themselves out of work, because the guy who looks at the new thing and goes, this is way better, even if it's not perfected yet, is the guy that's there when the thing is perfected, who knows how to use it, while the guy who's going to stuck on doing it the old way is just like, oh, I didn't think this was ever going to get to be this good. How do I use it again? And like everybody else is already a mile ahead of him
Good points. Very good points.
in their ability to use this thing. And he's like, okay, but I mean, I can figure it out. And they're like, yeah, you're fired, because you weren't paying attention to like the changes that were going on, and you resisted that change. And now the punishment for that is even the junior guy that worked for you figured out that these tools were going to be way more effective and way more productive, and he's now lapped you on the race course. Yeah.
But like the difference should be huge then. Like what you say,
Yeah.
like the day that really happens, which is like the day that the AI is able to write great code that it's much better than today, and so then the clean code guys start to be interested into AI, but at the same time, the other guys who just been using AI for years before are going to be like not miles, but like millions of miles ahead, because once again, the hardest part is not to implement AI, is to implement the new way of working with the AI.
Exactly.
You need to start thinking a completely different way about coding, about developing features if you want to use the AI at the most. And this new way of working, it takes time to just like unlearn everything you've been doing before, and then start like learning the new processes, learning the new way of working, right? It's not just, hey, just do better prompt or just use agent AI. No. It's like you have to orchestrate the agent AI. You need to think about developing things a completely different way, and that really takes a lot of time to actually understand and to just adapt ourselves to, once again, this new way of working, right? And so if you start now and it takes like, I don't know, 6 months to be fully operational and to really use AI at the fullest, right? And that's better to start right now than in 2 years, right? So yep, I think the gap could be absolutely massive. Yes, for people who don't implement AI right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I think it's true for every new technology. If you let other people become the experts in the new thing,
Yep.
you're just going to get left behind. And the new thing generally over time is way more productive and way more efficient than the old thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the new thing.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, no, I think it's, for everybody who's listening to us, you should start looking at agent AI. Don't worry too much about the clean code. If you are not in an environment where it's mission critical to have absolutely the cleanest code in the world, if that's okay to have some some stuff here and there, but the button works. If that's okay, then you are going to just like get so much ahead of everybody else. Yep.
Martin, I think we should print T-shirts that just says the button works.
Just does the button works? Yes, that's good enough. Perfect.
It's good enough. I think that'd be the greatest T-shirt. The button works. What
The
are we
button-
doing?
The button works. That's good enough.
It's good enough for us. Oh man! Look, we were supposed to spend at least some time talking today about Colin Fleming, the new OpenAI CMO, but because we got really fired up about the changes that Google's made and the impact that it's going to have on publishers and everything else, like we kind of got a little bit waylaid. I do think we should still talk about this, but we have a little bit of a time constraint tonight. We should put it up there as well, because we do think it's important, right? We don't have that much time. But I think the main message, Martin, that I want to get out here is, and I put this in my notes, it's that I believe that OpenAI has finally figured out that they're not getting their messaging and their comms right. And that Colin Fleming, who's been one of the most effective comms guys and marketing guys, is a great hire, but it's also symptomatic of the fact that OpenAI realizes, like, hey, maybe everybody inside the company should shut up for a moment and let the guy who's in charge of communications do the communicating. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be mean to anybody, but you understand the point, right?
I mean, I'm sure they listened to AGTP, right? Because this was our biggest.
I think they hired him because we were talking about it.
Exactly, that was our biggest advice. We've been talking about that on AGTP, sorry, for weeks now, right? Like, okay, we need to refocus the communication about the product. We need to stop like all the craziness in terms of communication at OpenAI. They need to really recenter around the product because their product is good, right? It's not like you have
Yeah.
a product problem. No. Your product can compete with Cloud Opus. You can do that. So focus on this. It's way better, and stop talking about everything else, basically. And yeah, I mean, changing the CMO is a big change, and this guy is really good, and so that's great for them,
He
I
spent
think.
he spent 13 years at Salesforce, and he basically went into a company called ServiceNow and completely transformed um their leadership. I mean, sorry, their marketing and their comms business. And he scaled that business, at least the ServiceNow business, beyond $15 billion. There's a lot to talk about here, but I do think it's indicative of the fact that like OpenAI realized after listening to you and me talk about this for like a month that they're like, maybe what Martin is saying is right, and we need to hire somebody to do our comms. Those guys nailed it.
Which they nailed it, and then they went, which, by the way, ServiceNow is going to come on the HDT podcast. I'm talking to them right now. We are organizing it. So that's
On
really funny
ATP.
that, yeah, on ATP, yeah.
Perfect.
So that's really funny that this news also appears at the same time. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's interesting because they will be on the podcast soon.
We should try to get Colin on. It'll be interesting to see again how they interact with, you know, John and Jordy, who were meant to be part of the strategic comms team as well, right?
Yes. I mean, this is like the ongoing question, right? It's like, how does that look like? Sorry, what does that look like? Yeah, there is no clear answer to that question. Yep.
There is not.
Idea. But yeah, I mean, like, this is interesting to me. This is really interesting to me. In a way, it makes me happy, you know, because I don't think it was good to have OpenAI doing so much craziness in terms of communication,
No.
right? I don't like that. Like, really, I want a world where people will build great products, you know, get the credit for it, and we get the users, and us also as a user, we are able to access great products, fair competition, and we have, you know, like choice with which provider we want to use, right? And so the only way to do that at scale is if if the companies who are building the products are actually in good shape, in good health, right? And it didn't look like OpenAI was going into the right direction. So if they stop all the mess and then they recenter around the product, and then they scale the quality of the product, I think this is a really good signal for us as the user.
So the other important thing to mention here, right, is that OpenAI says it already has 1 million business customers. The idea that this guy Colin Fleming is coming in to make its enterprise ambitions actually more obvious, right?
Yeah.
And the comms between, and you know, he said some, again, I did some research on this. I believe it was Colin Fleming who said, in the B2B world, neither one of those B's should stand for boring.
That's
But
interesting.
but again, that's how you can tell he's like a comms guy, right? Because he figured it out. He's like, that's a cool thing to say. But I think the more important thing here is that is that he's being hired because he's a professional dude. He's like the adult in the room when it comes to B2B stuff. And while OpenAI says enterprise revenue contributes more than around 40% of their revenue, they want it to be at least 50-50, right? So it needs to grow more. And he's the perfect person because of what he did at Salesforce and because of what he did at ServiceNow on the B2B side and his knowledge of B2B. But also, the other enterprise companies trust his messaging, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like as a steward of the message, people now can trust the fact that, oh, maybe we're going to hear more interest. Because I think a lot of people have started to feel about OpenAI the same way you and I do, and that is the tech stuff that they build is insanely great. The messaging is just getting in the way.
Yes, completely. And this is really good sign, I think, for the future. Yep. And do you want to add anything else, Michael? Because we have Paul that is in the waiting room.
That's a lot more to talk about. Well, let's bring Paul in. Let's not make him wait anymore.
Okay, perfect. Paul is in the room with us.
Paul. How are you, Paul? I am doing awesome. It's nice to see you. You can hear us okay, yeah?
Perfect. We
What
can
kind
hear
of
you
mic do
and
you
see
have
as
there?
well.
Looks professional.
I just have a road bike. Sorry, not road bike, but a road mic,
A
which
road
is
bike.
I know it's not road. I
Somebody
was
has
like, what was
motorcycles on the brain. I love it.
that?
Yeah, that's the same one that we have in the studio actually, Michael. Yep.
It is. It is. It is.
Great.
Super
Yeah,
cool.
I mean it's not that expensive. Decent sound quality.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Awesome.
Super
Awesome.
cool.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay,
Super
it's
cool.
great to have you here, Paul.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's great to be with you guys.
Okay, should we get going, Martin?
Let's go. Enjoy the conversation,
Let's
guys.
do it.
See
Okay.
you.
So, Paul, again, I want to like formally welcome you to the show. We wanted to have you on. I mean, obviously, to talk about what Pantera does, but more generally, like how institutional digital asset investing is going to help blockchain companies move from sort of more sort of speculation in the markets to durable financial infrastructure. But maybe before we get to that, tell our audience a little bit more about Pantera Capital so they can get a sense of like some of the great stuff that you guys are working on.
Sure. So Pantera Capital is one of the oldest and largest and leading venture capital firm focused on investing into blockchain technologies and digital currencies.
Right.
We have both a hedge fund and a venture fund. We manage over $4 billion of assets.
A hedge fund and a venture fund.
Yeah, yeah. So we do both liquid trading and we also do early stage venture investments. I'm a managing partner here. I lead our venture capital practice. So I focus mostly on the early stage or private investing.
So where that's interesting. If you just so you understand my background, I worked at Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs in Tokyo for like 20 something years. So I'm super happy to spend some time talking to you about investing. We could also spend time talking about the hedge fund side, but maybe next time we'll get somebody from the hedge side of the business on the call because we can talk about that too. But from your perspective, where is institutional blockchain investment headed over the next like 2 or 3 years? And which parts of the market are now mature enough for serious capital allocation besides like stable coins?
Yeah, so we're really excited about the intersection of AI and crypto. I mean, there's so much innovation, technology, and capital going into AI, and
Yeah,
that's
there is.
great. I mean, we're seeing a lot of amazing models being built out, a lot of capabilities. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's two things right now for AI and crypto that are happening that
Go for it.
make a lot of sense that go hand in hand. One is around identity. We invest into a company called WorldCoin, which really has created technology to prove that you are a human being. And while they can store that identity anywhere, they feel like the best place to store these identities for these identities to sort of be authentic and be immutable is on the blockchain. And so WorldCoin has really produced 16 million unique identities on the blockchain. Identity is extremely important, especially in the world of AI, where I myself have had generative AI produce deep fakes of me,
Oh no.
convincing folks of investment opportunities. And so to be able to really know if you're talking to a real person
Yeah.
or an agent that is authorized by a real person is tremendous in a world where we're going to have so many agents doing so many different things for us. And so, WorldCoin has done a great job of being able to gain partnerships with Zoom and with Tinder and with all these other places where you want to know who you're talking to. You want to know that this person is of age. You want to know some background on these individuals, but you also want to give them the ability to choose what they want to reveal about themselves. And that is tremendous. We think something like that is a great use case of blockchain for AI. And then the second piece, which you mentioned already, is around payments. I mean, we've seen $46 trillion dollars of payments being done on stable coins. And so to
Yeah.
be able to sort of give these agents the ability to both have an identity, be able to have access to a wallet. It's hard for them to sort of sign up for a bank account, and then be able to trade all of these different assets, whether they are uh, off chain, such as your stocks and your treasuries or things like that, or things that are becoming on-chain. And I think for us, like, we're seeing tremendous traction around all the different types of assets that are being put on the blockchain so that they can be more freely tradable 24/7, faster, cheaper, more transparent trading. So we actually put out a tokenization report recently where we covered 590 different tokenized assets, $320 billion worth of assets, and then 11 different asset classes. And we're really seeing so much momentum outside of stablecoins. We're starting to see a lot of momentum around tokenized treasuries, tokenized stocks, and tokenized private credit.
So this is interesting, right? What is the intersection? There's a lot here. What is the intersection between artificial intelligence, agentic payments, right? And you can even include stablecoins in this, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of stablecoin usage in the context of investing in real world assets that are now put onto the blockchain.
Yes.
Of the 500 and something sort of types of things that were put on the blockchain to be tokenized, where are the ones where you're seeing the most usage? And then where does AI come into play on the side of like where to invest in it, how agentic payments works with that stuff as well, to make sure that like that stuff is joining the AI revolution too?
Yeah, it's really the assets that are most interesting. I think it started off with tokenized treasuries, especially with what's gone on in the US in terms of macro. Tokenized stocks have been actually gaining a lot of traction. I mean, to be able to, like, look, I mean, we can access stocks really easily, but like for folks in APAC, for folks in Latin America to be able to access the dollar at first, and now blue chip tech stocks. And this is just, I'm sure if you're wealthy enough, you can find a way, and or
Sure.
you can set up a bank account somewhere. But you're giving access to the rest of the population in these demographics in a more open financial way is tremendous. And I do think that we'll start moving over to other areas, being able to sort of do tokenized private credit, especially where credit is really tough to sort of get in areas outside the United States. So I think those are the top three areas right now. And so to be able to then pair these agents, to give them the ability to tap into the blockchain, to be able to trade these assets on a ledger that is operating 24/7. I mean, you probably heard of Hyperliquid and how much
Yep.
activity it's gotten recently, where you're able to really sort of trade futures of these stocks on a 24/7 basis and get real-time pricing. I mean, that is something that isn't happening right now, and it's solving a huge problem. So to be able to give these agents 24/7 trading of these assets and making them even smarter too, by giving them a lot of data that they wouldn't sort of know about these individuals, I think is really the power of decentralized finance.
So this is kind of an interesting question for me, and you've brought up something like I'm always thinking about this, right? I didn't want to spend so much time talking about stablecoins, but I guess they're the kind of the linchpin that kind of ties all this stuff together. What is your feeling? Because you're closer to this than I am, right? But what is your feeling on the impact of a dollar-based stablecoin on what I'll call sort of minor currencies globally? Because you're right. If somebody pick a country in Chile, I don't even know why I picked that, but I was having a conversation with somebody about Chile a couple of days ago, so it's on my brain. But if
Sure.
somebody in Chile who's not wealthy, doesn't have a brokerage account in the United States, but has access to stablecoin technology, can then use that technology to buy tokenized stocks or tokenized treasuries, when will they ever then transfer their money back into whatever their local currency is? And then what's the impact on some of those local currencies, right? If the stablecoin becomes the means with which everybody does some kind of commerce or some kind of financial transaction, what does it mean for these lower level currencies? Like, are they going to stay? Are they going to go away? Or is the dollar or the yuan just going to become this hegemonious currency that everything gets done in globally? Do you know what I mean? Do we end up with this currency duopoly? I mean, the yen's going to still stay there too, but you understand the question, right?
Yeah, no, I understand the question, and I do see uh, potentially a bit more global dominance of the dollar, but I wouldn't
Mm.
say that local currencies are going away. I think that there will be a need for local currencies and even local currency stable coins, because at the end of the day, I mean, there are folks that are going to, and the governments are going to push for the use of local currency for at least certain types of transactions. And so and especially like the larger sort of like FX transactions are going to be done likely using local currency. So we're going to see those local currencies be tokenized and then be able to sort of have the FX done on the blockchain. And so we're actually investors in companies like OpenFX, which are really trying to kind of create the need for tokenized versions of these local currencies so that they can do the FX all on chain and again make it 24/7 faster and cheaper. But we also will see, I think, outside of the dollar becoming a lot more dominant, we could see the means of transactions just being, instead of using a currency to buy something, how about my tokenized Apple stock to buy something and have the conversion and everything just kind of all happen in the back end where I'm using my stock, but they could still get tokenized local currency in the back end, and they really don't need to know anything about what is the input, but as long as the output is what I want, I mean that could be really cool too.
Wait a second. Run me through how this works again. So you're suggesting in a world with no currencies, let's just say, but I own Apple stock, which is tokenized, that I can then use my Apple stock in the same way that I might use it in an M&A deal as the currency to do that deal, and not just the M&A deal, but like to buy tires or something, that I can actually use the value of my stock because it's tokenized to say the total value of the tires, I'm just making it up as like $1,000, and here's $1,000 of Apple stock at today's price. And if you agree to take the risk of the Apple stock, then we can do a transaction just on that. That's what you're suggesting, yeah?
I'm suggesting that the other side could take the Apple stock, or they won't even know that they're taking Apple stock because it gets instantly converted on chain with minimal fees to tokenize Argentinian peso. And they're getting that on the other end. They don't even know that the other side's using tokenized Apple stock. But you could do all this when things are on chain, when everything's on sort of an open financial system.
Sorry, I haven't thought about this before. Is anybody working on that, or is this an idea that you've just come up with today, or is there an actual, because it's actually an interesting concept, right? I have something that has value. You don't need to know what generates that value, as long as at the end of the day you end up with the thing you want at the end of the chain, at the end of the payment experience. Yeah.
This is what is the future, and it's being worked on right now. In that all of these assets have to be tokenized, and it starts off with, first of all, you have to have the blockchains to be able to sort of handle the throughput. Regulations have to come into play, and then you have to be able to then have these assets like minted on chain. And then once these assets are there, and then there's liquidity, then you can actually have these transactions that happen whether both sides know in terms of like what assets being transferred, or whether it's just one side's like using Apple stock, the other side's just getting tokenized Argentinian peso in the back end. But this all happens over time, but it has to sort of sequentially happen through infrastructure that's being built and processes that happen.
Can we tell our viewers why the blockchain changes the way that transaction takes place, in the sense that you could still do that without the blockchain, but why does the blockchain make it better? Maybe if you can just kind of quickly run through with people, like, here's what it looks like without the blockchain. I own Apple stock. I sell that stock. I get the cash. I turn it into a stable coin. I move that stable coin from here to like I said, to Argentina, for Chile, or wherever it is. That stable coin then gets turned into fiat, and then that fiat gets paid to the person with whom I've done a transaction. If it's on the blockchain, like, how is it different?
Yeah, well, it's different because someone in Argentina who wants tokenized Apple stock might not be able to, or wants Apple stock in general, likely won't be able to get Apple stock because it's really tough to access securities of other countries unless you have a local identity, local bank account, like all this kind of stuff. So that's the first thing. And then once you're able to get access to Apple stock, and hopefully it's likely through a tokenized version of it, which you can do so by going to your either your local crypto brokerage, which is probably a lot easier to set up with than a a bank account, which I've been to the Philippines. They told me it'd take me a month and a half, and and waiting in line. I mean, again, a lot of these places, it's not easy to set up a bank account, especially as a foreigner too. So to be able to get tokenized Apple stock either through a crypto native brokerage, or maybe even natively yourself. I mean, you can set up a blockchain wallet, you can access a decentralized exchange, you can get access to a tokenized Apple stock, and then be able to, like, if you actually do have that stock, then you're probably going to have to find a way to sell that stock and get cash, and then be able to send that local currency to someone else. And that conversion to cash, like, could be not as much friction, but then be able to then send that local currency to someone else, that's another bank to bank transaction, or something that could take a bit of time, especially if
Yeah.
it's a large amount of capital. So you can do this pretty much almost instantaneously on the blockchain, because it is a system that is operating 24/7, that transactions happen all the time. And that's the beauty of the blockchain, is it's got as much throughput as Visa, MasterCard, but transactions cost less than a penny, and you can do any sort of size of transaction, and there's no sort of like minimums. There's no fees. The only fees that you have are these minor fees, which are minimal. So it's a faster, cheaper, more transparent way to basically move between any fiat currency. And now you can be able to do so between any sort of tokenized fiat currency and any sort of tokenized asset, real world asset.
What are the I want to get back to identity, which I feel like you mentioned like 3 days ago, but I still haven't been able to follow up on, because the money side of it is so much more interesting to me, because that's kind of my background. But
Yeah.
what is the regulatory? But identity is important, so I do want to dig a little bit deeper into that in a moment, if that's okay with you. But
Yeah.
what are the regulatory implications of this? Essentially, being able to use any tokenized asset as currency at some level, right? We're not saying
Mhm.
that explicitly, but implicitly we are saying that, like, if I have a tokenized asset, because it's on the blockchain and because it's tokenized, I can then turn it into some other type of payment mechanism that is not unknown, but unnecessarily known to my counterpart, as long as they end up
Mhm.
with, like you said, the Filipino peso or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, RGB. Yep, yep, exactly. Yeah, so that
Go ahead.
that this area is where regulations is starting to sort of develop. I mean, there was something earlier this year that was a work in progress to be able to provide a lot more regulatory clarity and approval for something like tokenized stock.
Right.
And so that is an interesting real world asset, one that I'm sure is in quite a bit of demand right now, especially from AI companies that have really, really, high stock prices, and people that want a bit of liquidity. And
Sure.
so, that's actually an area that we're actually looking at too. But, I think right now, it's and David Sachs, the former crypto and AI czar, has mentioned that NFTs, another form of tokenization, is also not a security. So we are starting to see trends of uh, creating rules around what type of assets these are, real world assets, and they may just kind of be a little bit more specific,
Mm.
tokenized private stocks or NFTs, but hopefully it moves to over like other types of assets like real estate and whatnot, and things that have yield. But like, that's kind of where the Clarity Act is coming into play. I mean, we want to be able to create a place where we can have innovation and have some early cracks at creating really interesting, like, real world assets on chain. And
Yeah.
then once they get to a certain scale, then maybe you have to put some certain KYC or regulatory parameters around it. But I think we're moving in the right direction in the US, and if we can get some good rules in the US, then it'll expand over to the rest of the world.
Do you see signs in the time that you've been involved in investing in sort of blockchain related companies? Have you seen some strong signs over time or change that the blockchain is becoming more part of mainstream financial infrastructure than rather just maintaining like for crypto stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the I think the best intersection of where blockchain is fitting in with financial infrastructure is at first just becoming sort of a back end, crypto as a service for uh, you know uh, a lot of these banks and enterprises and fintech companies to offer crypto to their clients and then offer other financial services like loans against that crypto and then be able to get into, and I know we talked about it, but things around stablecoin payments and
Right.
being able to get access to DeFi yield. But I do think that there is more experimentation around getting other types of assets on chain. Like you've seen Franklin Templeton putting a lot of interesting assets on chain now, BlackRock putting treasuries and other things on chain, Apollo putting private credit on chain. So there's a good amount of experimentation that's happening. And I do think that we're going to just see a lot more of that intersection of just, RWAs and the blockchain.
It almost feels like the natural progression to me of everything that else that's happened in the financial services industry over the last like 100 years. But that's just me. Do you want to talk about identity again and why it's so important, and maybe give a real definition of what digital identity is? Because I think some people, when they think of a digital identity or an online, they think of like just putting their passport online or putting their date of birth or their height and the color of their eyes online. But it's more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is the ability to uh, know that all of the information that you're putting in your identity is actually yours and
Right.
something that someone can't go in there and tamper with. That's the crux of why you should put identity on the blockchain. And then on top of that, the blockchain does have, I mean, depends on which blockchain you use, but it does have potentially selective privacy. So while your identity is on chain and it can't be tampered with, and you can continue to sort of verify, what information is on chain for your identity. If you decided to only reveal certain data on your identity, maybe it's just your date of birth, or so you can selectively make parts of your identity private depending upon when you need to use your identity, and so that is all sort of part of the benefit of having it on the blockchain. And then the other benefit of having it on the blockchain outside of its immutability is also for regulatory purposes. There's a lot of liability for these companies to have your identity on chain. And so if you want to be compliant with GDPR in Europe and other things, they want these identities on ideally something like a blockchain where it's not it's tamper proof, but it's also not controlled by a certain party, and it just reduces risk all around. And so to be able to then have this identity, have it be selectively private or not private, and then be able to then take that with you is huge. And again, in a world of AI where you're not quite sure what's real and what's not, I mean, it's extremely important.
Um, what should founders know from, because as from your perch as an investor, right? What should founders that are building in this space, whether it's identity stuff or financial stuff, what should they understand about institutional investors' expectations around the types of things that they should build in today's world for, where this tokenization stuff is happening, where the payment stuff is happening? It almost feels to me like the stablecoin thing is a done thing, but what should founders know today? What are you looking for? What are institutional investors looking for that founders need to know about?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're in a cycle of crypto that investors really just want to see companies building and getting product market fit and getting good solid revenue and showing product market fit that way. In the past, there's been a sort of like a debate on whether to start with a token business model or a revenue
Right.
business model. At this point in time, it's really good to just start off with product market fit, finding revenue, getting to a certain scale, and then being able to think about, especially as regulations, gets more confirmed around the Clarity Act, can think about how a token can fit into your business model. Similar to, I guess, an example, we're an early investor in Circle,
Right.
and they went out there, launched USDC, found a solid business model for it, and I think they're going to expand how that product and that business model goes about. But see an opportunity to get a bunch of developers onto their payment network and launch Circle Arc, and now they can have both. I mean, that's the best way to do it.
So Circle, I'm really glad you brought this up. Circle's actually a really interesting example of this because it's one of the few companies that owns the sort of USDC, but also owns the blockchain on which it trades.
Yes,
Right. So this
that
and
is
this is a
correct.
new thing. You're introducing ARC as a place for people to come. But what are the implications of that for people that have other stable coins? Will they be able to trade? And I know this is separate from our conversation, but it's just interesting to me because it's different from the way most companies that are operating in the same space that Circle's operating. They don't have their own chains. It trades on chain, but not on theirs. And what are the implications of ARC actually in the context of all this stuff that's going on in the other inside the other businesses where Circle operates?
Yeah, I mean, for them, they want their stablecoins to be traded everywhere,
For
uh,
sure.
and and but if they can sort of own the customer relationship and have them all
Yep.
trading, uh, you know, transactions on their own stablecoin. Think of the blockchain as really their own blockchain is really an exchange, right? That's
Yep.
at the end of the
Yep.
day, and it's their way to really just kind of get into the transaction layer and not just the minting layer. So I think there's an opportunity for them to get value from both, and they shouldn't limit the use of their stablecoin on their own network. But obviously, like they're obviously going to push for it.
Interesting. One more thing, and then I let you go. I'm looking at the chart of Bitcoin for this year, and between January and today, it's been in a really, really tight range. I see you typing it in as well. I mean, sure, it was over 100,000 or around 100,000 in January, but just below it. But it's been kind of in this 60 to 70 something range for the entire year. What impact does that have on investors' desire to invest in the kind of blockchain peripheral space, but also in the founder's desire to say, I want to be involved in a business that's related to that thing that's going sideways?
Yeah, Bitcoin is a great store of value, and it's usually the first asset that will be bought when there's sort of macro momentum for getting into more of a risk on asset. And I do think that from a macro perspective in the US, I mean, once inflation changes, plus also maybe uh, the war, and then uh, lastly, I mean, I do think the Clarity Act will be a potential stimulus. Then people are gonna get into Bitcoin first. But I think it makes a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's so much innovation that's happening in in blockchain, and almost all of it is happening outside of the Bitcoin area. And
Right.
so, if you do want to get exposure to all of the other use cases around payments and around tokenization, it's going to be on the other assets. And so the best way to sort of invest into that is, there's going to be a lot of more public companies that happen. We've been part of 5 out of 9 public companies. There's going to be a lot more that hit the market. A lot of them are going to be providing infrastructure. We're going to see some blockchain networks like Arc kind of evolve within that. We're going to see ETFs, digital asset treasuries that evolve, and potentially even tokenized venture funds that become accessible. But at the end of the day, I mean, another big catalyst I think is just like, there's a lot of capital that's in AI right now,
Yeah.
and eventually it's going to have to go somewhere else. And AI and crypto are the two most compelling technologies. And so, AI is pretty hot. Bitcoin's trading 40% under its long-term trend. And so Bitcoin venture and all these other public vehicles to get access to, crypto-related startups and crypto-related currencies are going to do very, very well.
We get the sense that if money does come out of the AI space, and we spend so much time talking about it, talking to founders, talking to investors, talking to, I would call them incumbent companies, but they're simply not that old in the artificial intelligence space. And everybody that we talk to in every vertical is trying to figure out how they incorporate and embed artificial intelligence inside of their own operations. Is there a sense that do you feel like the money's actually going to come out of there and go back into crypto or to blockchain? Or do you feel like this is different and that the money that's going into AI is going to stay in AI and it's going to keep investing in AI, and that this is actually going to be the thing that literally transforms the economy, not just in the United States, but globally? And then I'll let you
I
go.
think, I think that there's more room for AI, but I do think some of it's going to go into and diversify into other assets like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And especially if we start seeing the startups and innovation around the intersection of AI and crypto, I think that's even more impetus for that AI money to sort of stay at least in that intersection, if not going into other areas of crypto.
We'll have to watch this. Let's watch it together. I would love to have you come back on the show, or one of your other colleagues come back on the show to talk about crypto in the context of AI as well. Paul, I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. Thank you so much for spending your early morning with us. We really appreciate it. And thank you again for coming and doing this.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, that's it. That is it for AGTP Daily. Thank you again for joining us. I'm actually excited. We got to cover all the topics that we wanted to cover. So Martin and I actually did get to the hiring of Colin Fleming. I don't think we spent enough time on it, but I thought it was still really good. Anyway, we covered some really great topics today. And again, thanks to Paul for coming on and talking about the intersection of AI and blockchain, and also where blockchain investment is going and why the level of Bitcoin matters. Give us a thumbs up on today's video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on all of our socials, on X, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. Let us know in the comments on any of those platforms if you have any questions, or if there are things you'd like us to discuss. We are on every day at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be back again tomorrow doing that. Thank you again to Martin for everything that he does. My name is Michael Waitz. Bye for now.